motivation is always my two children who sadly died, Kate in 91 and Tom died in 1998, age 15. And they're the inspiration, and on my wall next to me you can see pictures of them, and they're with me daily, and they're my passion, and they were my late wife's passion, and that's what drove us, because when the charity first started, children's hospices in the UK were a relatively new phenomenon, so it was a job to go around and explain to people what children's hospices were. They had a very good understanding of what our great friends in the adult hospice movement do, but what was it about children? And therefore, how could we tell that story? And the only story we had out there to tell with permission was ours. So they became very much the focal point of the early years of Children's Hospice South West. I think that there are many groups in our communities who are excluded, who have difficult times, and we can name a lot of them. One of those groups is children with life-limiting illnesses. And what isn't really known about most of those illnesses is that children who are diagnosed often take a very long time from that point of diagnosis until death, and that's a very long journey with a deteriorating medical situation, with families under a particular type of strain. And because there is no one group fighting for a particular disease, for a cure or whatever, it's a hodgepodge of diseases from which children die in childhood. And so we've become a community for people who are in isolated positions, who often do feel marginalised, and that's part of my motivation as well. It's to have an impact and reduce that level of marginalisation. When we first thought about Children's Hospice South West, we were told one isn't needed. And so when Littlebridge House opened in '95, there were immediately 80 or 90 families who used us straight away. And by the millennium, with the 8 beds that we have and the intermittent usage for respite care, for emergencies, for end-of-life care, we were at capacity. So I think it proves some of those people's views wrong. I'm sort of quite pleased about that, really, because that was always our view as parents, that there was an unmet need out there. And interestingly, ordinary men and women and boys and girls who we spoke to understood that need as well, because their experiences are of families and what families go through. And this place, Children's Hospice South West, is for families, and they understood that in a way which perhaps some others didn't. We need to raise a massive amount of money per annum. We throw ourselves on the mercy of the public in the southwest of England. I think that 3 hospices is probably enough. It's all that the southwest of England can sustain, and also that's the view of the healthcare professionals who we speak to as well. Of course people want more resources, but more resources need more support financially, and we know we're in an age of austerity when the state is pulling back from all sorts of things it used to do. The voluntary sector is responding to some of that, so I think that the pressure will be on us to provide more and more care, but equally, therefore, we need to make the best use of the resources we have. We may need to provide care in other ways, and we're thinking about the way in which we can maximise our support to families who don't use us. We're looking at how we can provide more expert support from the very skilled doctors and nurses that we have here, which can support our health and social care colleagues in the community as well as our families, in order that some solutions can be found to problems which do arise from time to time. So it's that arena, it's becoming more rounded in what we do, reaching out to the community. Why do people give? It's because actually, it's a funny old word to use, but people feel very protective. People feel very loving and very sympathetic and empathetic to children who are less fortunate, and we see that over a whole range of issues in this wonderful country in which we live. Because because they want to be part of the story of Children's Hospice South West and want to feel that they've made a difference, and it's part of the British DNA. And I think charity, in the way in which it's manifested in this country, is not really found in too many other places. So I think it's very special. And here in the South West, where there are still very strong communities, there's a strong regional identity, that generosity is very, very significant.